This is the story of a great yogi and a man of peace. It's the story of struggle and of faith, a story of all time. The year is 1927. Swami Vishnudevananda is born in Nemara in Kerala, South India, land of rice paddies and coconut groves, rubber and banana plantations, God's own country. At the age of 4, the young boy, already showing signs of determination and discipline, fearlessness and compassion that marked the whole of his life, insisting on walking alone across the paddy fields 4 miles each way to his uncle's school, saving frogs and other animals from nature's clutches on the way. Unable to take the idea of conventional life in the family home, the young man escaped to the army, hoping to receive a scientific education, a subject which he excelled in at school. But he was restless, dissatisfied with what life was bringing him. One day, while looking for a lost document, he found a leaflet in a waste paper basket that was to change his life. It was a call from the Himalayas, a series of spiritual instructions written by His Holiness Swami Sivananda Saraswati, and it captured the young man's heart. Determined to meet the leaflet's author, the young soldier obtained a few days' leave from the army camp and made his way to Swami Shivananda's ashram in Rishikesh. From his first visit, he never looked back. His life was to take a 180-degree turn. He left worldly existence, despite pleas from his family, and at the age of 20 became one of the most dedicated and devout disciples of Swami Shivananda, taking sannyas and the name Swami Vishnudevananda in 1947. He was to spend 10 years in the ashram and became a master of Hatha Yoga. He attributed his success to his master, Swami Shivananda. Swami Vishnu would say that his master awakened all his knowledge from previous lives, enabling him to revive this yoga system from the past. Later in life, he saw how systematically, step by step, without mentioning anything, the master removed his impurities. He became professor of Hatha Yoga at the ashram, as well as private secretary to the master. Initially, he was intimidated, feeling inadequate and not ready to teach at the level Swami Shivananda required of him. But soon he realized that his master was behind him, supporting him in every move he made, that he had become an instrument to reawaken the knowledge of Hatha Yoga. Swami Shivananda was training Swami Vishnudevananda for his role as a world teacher. Many people from overseas came to visit the ashram in Rishikesh and came to know Swami Vishnudevananda. They studied Hatha Yoga under him, and he received numerous invitations to visit people abroad. The time was ripe. In 1957, Swami Shivananda selected this young disciple as his first apostle of peace to the West. He sent him forth saying, "People are waiting." It was 10 years after Swami Vishnudevananda had come to the ashram in Rishikesh. With his master's blessing and very little money, he set out. He had never before left India. He knew nothing of life in the West. His travels were in stages, always heading towards America, Sri Lanka, Singapore, Hong Kong, then to Indonesia and Australia, Hawaii, and eventually San Francisco. He would teach wherever he went, filling halls, conference centers, auditoriums, assembly rooms. People came from far and wide to hear his inspirational speaker with his extraordinary knowledge of Hatha Yoga. Then a long drive across the states to New York, where he tried to settle. The immigration department had other ideas, so he disembarked up to Canada and set up home in Montreal. Here, in 1959, he formed the Shivananda Yoga Vedanta Center organization, naming it after his master, to whom he attributed all his success. He opened the first yoga center in Montreal, still operating to this day 50 years later. Swami Vishnudevananda was wise beyond his years. He took yoga to where the people were. He opened a summer camp 1 hour north of Montreal, within 2 years establishing his first ashram, the Shivananda Yoga Camp in Valmorin, a small village in Quebec. And from his teachings came the idea of people taking a yoga vacation, a pioneering concept which has now been copied and imitated the world over. A yoga vacation, to put you on the road to a new life through yogic discipline, nature's way to eliminate physical and mental illness. And people came in there, hundreds, from all walks of life, of all ages, from all around the world, to live a life of yoga for a few days, or a week, or a month. And they would return home full of energy, revitalized and with peace of mind. Swamiji's motto, "Health is wealth, peace of mind is happiness, yoga shows the way," was being played out in full sight, and the word spread. The Shivananda Yoga Vedanta Center organization expanded. Over the following years, ashrams were established in the USA, the Bahamas, and India. Centers in Toronto, Chicago, London, Washington, Tel Aviv, Vienna, Madrid, Munich, Paris, Berlin, Geneva, Montevideo, Trivandrum, Delhi, Chennai were all established. The teaching of yoga, through the direct influence of Swami Vishnudevananda's work, was spreading throughout the world. It was during this time that Swami Vishnu had a powerful vision that led to the formation of the True World Order, TWO, a movement to establish peace throughout the world. The first program of TWO was the pioneering Shivananda Yoga Teachers Training Course, the first to be started in the West, and like the yogification, now emulated by many hundreds of yoga organizations throughout the world. Its stated purpose was to train responsible citizens in techniques to finding peace. The first course was held in 1969 in the Shivananda Yoga Camp in Canada, modelled on the program that Swami Vishnu had established at the Yoga Vedanta Forest Academy in Swami Shivananda's ashram in Rishikesh. He planted the seed for yoga to spread around the world, sending out trained teachers to take the principles of yoga back to their communities and their countries wherever they might be. He would impress on his students that if they could heal their own body and mind, then they would be capable of healing and taking care of the planet. He himself said that he remained religiously true to the ancient teachings of all forms of yoga. He would assert that he had invented nothing new, only presented the perfect science of self-development in a form comprehensible for an analytically minded era. He took yoga out of the arcane and into the mainstream with his 5 points of yoga, never deviating from the original teachings. A proper exercise, asana. Asanas develop physical health and mental flexibility. When the energy is moving efficiently, we are bound to be healthy, strong and peaceful, radiating vitality. Proper breathing, pranayama. Specific breathing techniques release energy for physical and mental rejuvenation. Pranayama opens the door to almost unlimited power and is one of the most important practices in yoga. Proper relaxation, savasana. 3 methods of relaxation are used in yoga: physical, mental, and spiritual. Relaxation is nature's way of recharging. Proper diet, vegetarian. The yogic diet is vegetarian, consisting of pure, simple, natural foods that are easily digested and that promote health to the individual and have the least negative impact on the environment. Positive thinking and meditation. For mental health and well-being, we need to bring our minds under conscious control. We begin to understand that happiness is a state of mind. The science of positive thinking and the art of meditation bring us a healthy mind and inexhaustible energy. Not only were the teachings in themselves powerful, but Swami Vishnudevananda was a teacher of great personal dynamism. He inspired thousands of students at his ashrams and changed the lives of many more through his writings. His book, The Complete Illustrated Book of Yoga, first published in 1960 and still in print, has sold many millions of copies and is translated into 15 languages. Dedicated to the cause of peace and unity in diversity, he constantly and courageously lived up to the highest spiritual truths. Despite the far-reaching effect of his work, Swami Vishnu remained a simple man, of iron will and of great humility. He constantly looked for ways to bring peace to the world. He sponsored international symposiums and conferences on science, music and religion, bringing together world-renowned speakers and performers from all faiths and cultures, with the express intention of opening up dialogue and promoting understanding and cooperation between cultures and creeds. He feared no one. He had dialogues with the Beatles, Muhammad Ali, Prime Ministers Rajiv Gandhi and Morarji Desai of India, King Hualos and Queen Sofia of Spain, musicians Ravi Shankar and Ali Akbar Khan, and many, many others. He would take out full-page advertisements in leading press in the US, UK, Germany, India, France, promoting the practice of yoga or bringing the attention to the need for peace. And so his peace mission came about. He felt the urgency to expand his work. He saw the need to take the message of peace to the world stage, to take more direct action. He wanted to bring world leaders, politicians and decision-makers to account, to draw attention to the folly of conflict and war. In 1970, he purchased a twin-engine Piper Apache aeroplane, putting in extra fuel tanks and long-range radio equipment, and he had the plane painted in cosmic designs. Along with a Planet Earth passport, a one-world citizenship passport as his only travel document. He was to fly to trouble spots around the world and drop flowers and leaflets proclaiming the need for peace. It was 1971. His first target was to be Belfast, Northern Ireland, then in the midst of an undeclared sectarian war and occupied by British troops. The actor Peter Sellers had agreed to be part of the mission. They flew into Belfast against the government's orders not to do so and bombed the city with flowers and leaflets calling for peace. After landing and a serious warning not to repeat the flight, Swami Vishnu and Peter Sellers visited the most dangerous part of the city, talking to both sides of the conflict as well as to the soldiers. The world's press was already in the city, and Swami Vishnu achieved his aim of drawing attention to the folly of war. The peace mission continued. In October 1971, Swamiji flew from Israel over the Suez Canal to Egypt at the height of the Arab-Israeli conflict, dropping flowers and leaflets. No plane had flown from Tel Aviv to Cairo since the Six-Day War in 1967, and relations between the two nations were strained almost to breaking point. Despite both Israel and Egypt sending planes to bring down the peace plane, Swami Vishnu landed in Cairo, where he was detained in an Egyptian jail. Eventually, when the authorities recognized that he had come on a peace mission, he was treated royally by the government and sent on his way. He said the Israelis and Egyptians both had their guns aimed at us, but there was not one shot. we had conquered with flowers. For the rest of his life, Swami Vishnudevananda went on one peace mission after another. He constantly spoke out against sectarian violence and man-made divisions. Some received worldwide attention, others went almost unnoticed. But it made no difference to him. He was only doing his duty. The results he left up to God. In 1983 he set out again on a dangerous mission, this time to cross the Berlin Wall from west to east at the height of the Cold War. In an ultralight aircraft consisting of a Kawasaki motorcycle engine and a lawnmower seat, and armed with 2 bouquets of marigold flowers, by the West German authorities and the British and American authorities. He ignored them. He ignored the warnings that he would be shot down. He wanted to show that love could conquer the world. He would say, "No more bombs or guns, only flowers." And he succeeded. He flew over the Berlin Wall on a murky, grey day, under the radar, landing in an East German field. He was picked up by the East German police, interrogated, and sent back to the West with a cheese sandwich. Mission accomplished. He had achieved his purpose to break the barriers of fear and superstition erected by nations and man. His stated aim was to rally the forces of good in every country and awaken each to an awareness of the freedom of the soul and the oneness of humanity. Swami Vishnudevananda never pretended to be anything other than what he was, following his master's teaching and surrendering to God in everything. He wanted people to understand that anything they accomplished, like himself, would be through their own self-effort, that he could only guide them along the road, not take them there. He would spend months in seclusion in the Himalayas and more time in pilgrimage in his beloved India. The Shivananda Yoga Vedanta Yoga Center organization was now well established, and Swami Vishnudevananda was able to leave the daily running to his disciples. It was in the late 1980s that he was beginning to feel that his mission on this earth was drawing to a close. And so it came to be. In 1993, Swami Vishnudevananda left his body in South India. His body was consecrated to the Ganges on the 11th of November 1993, fulfilling a wish he had always expressed during his lifetime. But great saints never fade away. His legacy is a thriving organization, training many thousands of students a year in the fundamentals of yoga practice. The Ashrams, city centers, and affiliated teachers of the Shivananda Yoga Vedanta Center organization are flourishing and expanding. In the words of one of his disciples, Swami Vishnudevananda was a truly great world citizen. He was an innovator and a pioneer. He was a living example of practical wisdom and of dynamism, of courage and compassion. The press named him the Flying Swami for his daring peace flights, yet perhaps his greatest contribution was to popularize yoga philosophy and practice throughout the world. He pioneered the concept of yoga centers, yoga vacations, and yoga teachers training. Swamiji taught, the only way to change society is like changing a cotton cloth to silk, by changing each thread. Through the explosion of yoga because of the teaching of Swami Vishnudevananda, the fabric of society is changing.